Okay, welcome everybody to April 6th Storage Provider Meetup. Good one in store today. Been a few weeks since we've met, and we've had a couple large events since then, both in terms of announcements and developments and in terms of actual large events. We had our 2 Papa Bravo event, not this past weekend, but the one before that. That was a big hit. Got a lot of people out for both the Saturday and the Sunday event. I'm pretty pleased with that. Obviously, 2 Papa Bravo, that name is referring to the 2 petabytes, the 2 PBs, the 2 peanut butters that we hit in terms of stored data on our network. So, funnily enough, we actually, I think we were at like 1.99 or something when we actually hosted the event, but we got it like a day or two after the event. But yeah, crossed that 2 petabyte line, which has been pretty big milestone. We kind of blew straight through the 1 petabyte milestone last year, and then this one has proved a little more elusive, but finally nailed that down. Pretty happy to see that. And I know a lot of you also participated in the fall in the competition where the challenge was to guess when we would cross that 2 petabyte mark. So at the event, we did announce that Takum, I won't try to pronounce his last name, but Takum won the 2 PB event, I believe with his guess of April 1st, which was the closest guess. So congratulations to him. Off the top of my head, I can't recall exactly what the prize was, but I know it was a lot of SPF, like in the tens of thousands, I think. So that's a pretty big prize. So congratulations to him. Then on the Sunday, we held our poker event. I think we got something like 65 people out. So that was pretty fun. That was honestly more than I personally expected, but I think next year we're aiming for 100. Because there's potential here for this to turn into a little annual community thing. But congratulations to Dave Cady, who won the poker contest and managed to beat out the top dog himself, who is a self-proclaimed poker champion. So he showed him. Congratulations. And congratulations as well to all the other prize winners. So through the 2 Papa Bravo event, there were a number of trivia questions and various little fun giveaways that we ran. I think in all it was something like 50,000 SPF prizes were given out, and then a large number of smaller individual prizes as well. So congratulations to all the various winners. It was a big event. I had a lot of fun, and hopefully everyone who attended did as well. Got a pretty warm reception, so I'm confident saying that most people did. So kind of pivoting more toward things happening in the network today. So kind of recapping the last couple weeks. In the ASIC mining channel of our server, we have had a kind of a discussion, a consensus, a poll on the community's thoughts on changing, or tweaking, I should say, our proof of work mining algorithm. So this is a topic that we've had a lot of discussion on over a long period of time. So I'm not going to totally recap it, but I will say if you at all have any stake or take part in or are interested in participating in the ASIC mining side of our network, so these are the miners that actually mine the blocks. This is a separate process from the storage providing. Then be sure to pop into that channel and read up on what's happening and take part in the poll that's taking place there. The consensus on consensus, so to say. Also, just a couple days ago, the January fork, the 222-800 fork that we successfully ran at the end of January, the coin reclaim from the burn address that is completed as well. So that took something like 8 weeks to complete. It was a lot of transactions that had to be kind of compressed down and squeezed down because it was too many to fit in one big transaction. I mean, there was like 200,000 or it was in the hundreds of thousands, and that's too big. So we had to squeeze that down, and that took a long time, but it's now finally completed. So moving forward, as of a couple days ago, all of the coins that for various reasons end up in the burn address are going to stay there. And those coins that manage to make it out in accordance to the fork that happened earlier this year are largely going to incentive funds and being redistributed back to the network to our storage providers. So that's just kind of recapping. This isn't really news that that's happening, just that reclaim process is now finished. That's the news. Lastly, in terms of the network, as I'm sure some of you have noticed or maybe seen, yesterday our Explorer, the kind of main Explorer for our network, went offline. We are migrating it to a new server. So this was expected, or it was announced sometime in advance that this would happen, but we are, as of the time of recording this anyway, in the middle of transferring that Explorer to a new server, where it will then run indefinitely on that one instead. So just doing a little migration there. Hopefully you can make the maybe 24 to 36 hours that it'll be offline without too much issue, but I know it'll be back and better than ever once that migration is complete. So now recapping things that have kind of developed in the Exanet services space. They are many. So, so many that I actually had to go back and read everything that's happened since the last time we had one of these calls, because so much has happened. So probably the flagship, the big one that I want to talk about is that we finally released Relayer 2.0. So this is a big release for our Relayer software. Pretty significant and deep change and kind of rejigger to the configuration. So it's now running a much more stable and happy and resilient kind of Docker configuration. We're using Compose now as opposed to the containers that we were using before. If you have no idea what that means, that's okay. I didn't either until like a year ago. But there's various also improvements in the UI, in the underlying binaries, just a ton of all-around improvements, and it's up. It's more stable than ever. Pretty big release, and we've also kind of tightened up our release cadence as well as beta testing. So a lot of the new features that we're chewing on, some are already in the latest nightly that our beta testers are working with us on. But yeah, I think we can expect a pretty sweet release cadence with this kind of series of Relayer 2.0. So if you're at all interested in a Relayer, definitely encourage you to try it out. Head to the xns.tech website to kind of start that journey. I think you're going to like what you see, and it's just getting better. So I touched on the UI version there. There is also a command line Relayer that has been released. We had a number of people kind of interested or asking if you have to use the UI in order to control your Relayer, and now the answer is no, you don't have to, because there is also a command line edition. So that is probably something that might not really matter to most people, but to the people who that does matter to, it really matters. So we're now happy to offer that as well. So in kind of, as previously stated in some of the earlier calls and in the announcements channel, for the whole month of April and the tail bit of March, but it's now April, for this whole month, all charges on the network through Exanet services are now being covered by us as we finish up some of the improvements and fixes to our billing module. It is planned right now that billing will resume May 1st, so upload to the network, ideally only things that you actually plan on paying for. But if for whatever reason, if you set up a Relayer, maybe a Relayer pre 2.0 release, so 1.4 or kind of 1.3 or earlier, then you may want to visit the console, consider deleting that token if you are not going to continue using that Relayer. We have a more complete thought on that in the announcements channel, but just figured I'd make people aware so that it reaches as many ears as possible. Also, under the Exanet Services umbrella, I'm really happy to be able to talk about this one. We have our S3 team that has seriously been hitting the streets and trying out tons of different apps. I see a couple of them in the audience today, so really happy to be able to kind of speak to some of the great work that they're doing. For the unaware, or the people who've maybe heard a bit about this, but don't maybe quite understand why I'm so happy to kind of speak about this. Essentially, the relayer, what makes it, on its own, it is cool, it's powerful, it's endless data that you control and run on your machine. But what ultimately makes it usable and useful is the fact that it can connect to everyday different apps and services that people are already using. So we've talked about that before. That's the kind of significance of the S3 integration. But we have an awesome team of people, of community members that have picked up the mantle and are going out there trying tons of different S3 apps, verifying either they work or they don't. And if it does work, kind of creating documentation on how you can connect any particular S3 app to the relayer. So I believe they've already got a few dozen out of the way. I think maybe 20 so far, and then I've seen the list that has maybe 15 or 20 more. So it's really encouraging. This is very good work, and this is the kind of thing that, once again, if you're just maybe a casual user on our network, won't matter a ton to, but if you are a user of any S3 app and you kind of are maybe curious in using our network, probably one of the first things you would look for is some kind of integration guide. And those are now being put together and will very shortly, potentially this coming week, like next week, be released as well. So that's awesome. Very happy to see that work reach the light of day and actually, help bring some data onto this network and support meaningful use. Also, things that you can expect in the coming week that will help bring meaningful use to our network. So for a long time, we've had primarily written guides and docs for our network. This has been a choice that we made kind of early on because typically written guides tend to translate well. They tend to be easy to kind of make tweaks or revisions or changes to, whereas a video guide, you need to kind of go back and fully re-record something and then re-upload, and maybe that doesn't always reach as many people as the initial video did. So we've typically favored text guides up till now, but we are, I have already recorded several video guides for the relayer side. So this is something that I think will be important for reaching a big audience, for making it approachable for people to get set up on a relayer. We're going to make those available on YouTube and link them where appropriate in our various social properties and on our documentation. But yeah, pretty happy to be able to say that now there will be video guides on various aspects of setting up a relayer, what it takes to get set up with a relayer, connecting apps, even more advanced things like domains and getting SSL certificates so that you can use HTTPS with no issues, meaning that your relayer is accessible and usable securely from anywhere in the world, as long as there's internet, of course. So yeah, pretty happy to be able to announce that that's getting up. Speaking more generally now, so people who were around the server last Saturday, right, I guess depending on your time zone, perhaps last Sunday, there was a new show that popped up out of our community in the Discord channels called Two Fun Uncles. So for those of you who are regulars in the Discord channel, you might recognize Chum. I think his current screen name is Shardy B, and Jeff as well, who's been kind of a long time community influencer. And those two have teamed up to put together a show called Two Fun Uncles. That is, I think the plan is for them to host an event in one of the community rooms, or maybe even the theater stage. Not 100% sure where exactly it'll be, but when it's running, it'll be obvious where it is if you just pop into the server each Saturday. And yeah, that'll be a fun, probably a bit of a looser feel than this show or this storage provider call. But yeah, I encourage you to check it out. Those two are fun guys. They know their stuff. They've been around our network and done their homework. And yeah, I think hopefully you'll be entertained and learn something. So be sure to check that out. So I'm now going to try performing a little screen share here. This is something that was just recently added to these theater channels. So this tweet might be familiar. This was taking part in our SCPRig contest. The winners of this SCPRig contest were also announced at the 2 Papa Bravo event. And I'd like to highlight some of the winners that we have here. So first is Turtle Bomb, who put together this excellent little data neighborhood. So we have Xminers' houses, lots of little figurines, tons of attention to detail. This was definitely, I think, the rig that got the warmest reception, or the biggest reception in our community. This was superb. And there you have the little dog with the blue helmet. So even some kind of inside jokes, some deep cuts. Definitely an impressive rig that Turtle Bomb is running here. We had also Mr. I Wanna Know, who took some time to put together Snow White and the 7 dwarves. Snow White being the X-Miner, the dwarves being ASIC miners from the look of it, maybe S11s. And as well, from the same guy, this cool little arcade. This arcade console that's running storage providing rigs inside of it. Also from Chase Sailor, we had the Stoics. This was a fun one. Obviously referencing the philosophers. I'm not super cultured. I can't really speak to them any more than that. But yeah, there we go. And the maybe community pity prize, if I can maybe call it that, or pity's not the right word, but this was the one that's got maybe the most reaction from the community that wasn't necessarily favorable. We have Ted Lee, who put together this storage provider rig, which is just cable mayhem. This looks like it was in the corner of a garage. We got our roller skates right next to it. Looks like if somebody sneezes on it, it's gonna have about 10 things fall on top of it. But Ted Lee got a prize as well in this contest for having the most honest storage providing rig, perhaps. So big congratulations to all of these winners. Off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly what the prize was. I think they got a few thousand SPF each. There were some SCPs. All of those funds were community donated, which is always awesome to see. But yeah, we're always happy to have these kinds of outreach competitions within our community. And I love seeing these various rigs that people have and have clearly put a lot of effort to, especially in Turtle Bomb's case. I'm going to stop video sharing. We have a special guest this week. It is none other than Turtle Bomb himself, who is going to show up to the stage right here. Hey, Turtle Bomb, how's it going?
Hey, I'm good. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Well. I can.
Okay, good. Good.
So happy to have you joining us this week. You are...
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You're a little celebrity in our community now, so I'll ask you this to kind of lead off with. How did you discover SC Prime? How did you end up here?
Yeah, good question. You can call me Dan, by the way. So I kind of found SC Prime kind of on my own accord. I know a lot of people flooded in after was it Fonz Finds and Nerdy Dude stuff. But like I said, I found it on my own accord. It actually all started with XRP, believe it or not. And I kind of just went off a rabbit trail. So I'd gotten in crypto in about 2017 or so. And XRP was probably one of the first coins that I had put any money into. And I'm just a longtime holder of XRP and whatnot. But essentially when the Flare network was announced, the Flare airdrop, kind of there's some hype built around that. So I looked into the Flare networks, and then I actually started looking at what projects were partnering with Flare or working on the Flare network. And one of them was a Gala Games, which I'm sure a few of you are familiar with. And then I started looking at other projects that were dealing with games in the space. And particularly, I was looking at ones with lower market caps because I figured, hey, why not look at the underdogs and try and see which ones would come out on top in the end. And so one of the ones I looked into was Bluezell. And so I went on their website, was looking around, and they do like finance, they have one game coming up, and they also do distributed data storage. And I did some research on them, was not impressed by any means, just wasn't happy. They didn't really show any numbers, wasn't really a very detail-oriented person, so the numbers really matter to me. And wasn't really impressed with their game either. I mean, it's a game I could probably find on the App Store on my phone, so wasn't super thrilled with that. So I actually just looked into distributed data storage from there, and ended up finding SC Prime with the lower market cap. And I'm like, let's check these guys out. And went on the website, Exonet Services, and noticed that there was an actual device, plug and play device. And near the end of 2021, so when I put my email in to get an Examiner, and was super stoked about that. And that's pretty much how I got involved in the community.
Awesome. Yeah, I always love hearing about how people from various kind of starting directions. So people typically kind of enter the blockchain and crypto kind of interested in maybe one particular project, and then end up in somewhere completely different. And it's never the same journey for two people. So I always love hearing that. So I'll ask you, what is your kind of background, and maybe, so you mentioned XRP there. What was it that got you even kind of initially thinking about the kind of space?
Yeah. Well, my background, I'm from Minnesota. And Henry, are you from Ontario?
I am.
So we share a border. That's neat. I think, right? Minnesota and Ontario. I think we share.
I think so.
Borders.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So I'm from Minnesota, born and raised. Been here my whole life. But I joined the Marines right out of high school, similar to Viking or Brad. I remember him saying that in a call a couple weeks ago. So right out of high school, I was in the Marines for 4 years. I was in infantry. I did 2 years in Washington, D.C. as part of the Honor Guard at the White House and Pentagon and a few other places there. Then I did one pump after that. And then as soon as I got out of the Corps, I went to college, went to school back in Minnesota here. And just really was kind of interested in, I had some money saved up from the Marines and didn't really know what to do with it. I'm like, well, maybe I should invest it, make it work for me, right? And that's how I kind of got into crypto in the first place. But now that I've graduated school, right now I'm a full-time realtor. So anyone, that's kind of my plug right now. Anyone in Minnesota needs a house, let me know. But yeah, I mean, how I got in the space was really, I was just looking for a place to park my money and get involved. And I think there's this, whatever crypto is really kind of the next phase and where we are right now. I mean, I think there's a lot of potential here and a lot of use case, and especially with this community and project. So.
Yeah, good answer. And Andy in the audience did fact check us. Minnesota does indeed share actually a fairly lengthy border with Ontario. It just happens to be at the complete opposite end of where I am in Ontario. So,
are you by the lakes?
Yeah, that's right.
More or less. Okay.
And yeah, I think there are a couple states that share border with Ontario. So please forgive me if I couldn't name all of them off the top of my head. But anyway, good answer. And another kind of recurring thing, I guess, interesting parallel with Brad being our last guest, and he also had a path through the Marines. But yeah, so that people who don't even work in industries or sectors that are particularly involving tech, and even the writings on the wall in some of those places, that this seems to be a thing that is the future and is only getting more capable. So good answer.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we're getting into now the questions that I think everybody wants to hear the answer to. Tell us about your storage providers. And so we saw in the pictures there the Examiner houses. Yeah, tell us about that.
Do you want me to go into the contest too a little bit, or just talk about the providers themselves?
Yeah, sure. You can tell us like how many Examiners, how'd you get them?
Sure.
If there's an interesting story there, and then right into the contest.
Yeah. So basically how I got my first Examiner was, I put my name on the list, mailing list, end of 2021. pretty sure like the Fonz Finds crew pretty much cleaned house on the examiners on the site, so had to wait a little bit of time for that. But my first provider was a 64 terabyte examiner, which I still have today. Actually, I did have to end up getting it replaced. So props to the team for always being so quick and with fixing any issues that people have with their hardware. I mean, I think you guys really have like Mensa level knowledge in this space when I have like 5-year-old level knowledge. I remember I was talking with Ken on how to get the hard drives out of the examiner. I was like, what do I do after I press the blue button? He goes, pull. I'm like, thanks, Ken. I appreciate that. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to this stuff. So, and the machines are very tough. They're not fragile, and I think that was the biggest thing I was worried about because I didn't want to destroy any components or anything. But yeah, so I have a 64 terabyte was my first one, and then this past Black Friday and Beyond sale, I think it was called. That's when I ended up ordering 2 more. I ordered another 64 terabyte refurbished unit, which was a very healthy discount, which I very much appreciated with the same SPF rebates. And then I ended up buying a 16 terabyte regular, non-refurbished, yeah, because those weren't in stock at the time. And then I also bought a full license as well, which I still need to set up at some point. But I want to take advantage of that, times 2 SPF bonus, which I think was very generous. But as far as the rig contest goes, I mean, I don't mean to disappoint anyone, but that isn't how I regularly keep my examiners set up. It was just for the contest, but yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of got the idea because I thought of, I was looking at the other submissions that were already put online, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to beat anyone as far as hardware goes because some people have some gnarly setups, and in a positive way, I mean that, and don't have anywhere near, I guess, NVMe stuff or any of that kind of hardware. And I figured I'd have to go more on the creative side, which was, kind of a note in the contest there. And so I figured, I'm in real estate. Let's, let's kind of pair this with my background here. So I made a, little neighborhood, and I guess the idea kind of came from, I get a lot of my ideas before I go to sleep, and I just thought, I got 3 examiners. I can put 2 on one side, 1 on the other. I'm gonna have to order some grass, faux grass, fake grass, and I'll have to order some little people. Maybe we'll add a little fence, and then a road, some cars, and then I just ordered some stuff off of Amazon, and then I just kind of thought about what other details I'd want to add, and figured, let's add some road names, and let's try to be creative with that. And then I actually didn't think about the German Shepherd idea until a couple days after that, even. So I ordered a German Shepherd, little guy, and then I figured, I gotta add just a little bit more touch. So I'm like, I'm just gonna grab some blue paper and then cut up a little, blue helmet for him too. And yeah, that's kind of how it came about. But I really had a blast doing it, and really love seeing everyone else's submissions as well.
Yeah, thank you. I know everybody really enjoyed seeing yours, so that's awesome. And yeah, I think the German Shepherd in particular with the blue helmet, that was the cherry on top, but it was a very impressive piece altogether. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
congratulations,
thank
and
you.
much deserved prize as well.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for everyone that put the contest together. I think that was incredibly generous.
So I'll ask you, when you became a storage provider, you kind of mentioned that you don't really have a techie background, and maybe you're a little bit more now. So you have a full license, right? But that hasn't been set up. Are you thinking that that's something that you'd like to do in the future?
Yes, for sure. I'm actually, well, yes. So I want to figure out I kind of want to maybe pair with a mini computer or something. I'm not entirely sure how I would do that yet. If anyone has any suggestions, I know some people have said maybe like the Mac Minis are a good
I think I
device to
know
use with that.
exactly who gave you that idea.
But yeah, yep. But yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm looking for is maybe something I could set up the license, and then as time goes on, I could add storage to it if that's how it works.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes total sense, and I think that's a common that is a thing that people who go the DIY route, even with the full license. That is one of the attractions. Is that while there's certainly value in having all the storage up front, there is also kind of nice flexibility in going the DIY route, where it can be any shape and size you want it to, including potentially changing shapes and sizes over time.
Right. Yeah, and one of the things that I think of in the background um, is I know, well, time and service isn't necessarily something that plays a role quite yet, but in the future it might.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's kind of, I mean, timing kind of is of the essence as far as that DIY goes, or mine would go. So that is something I'm considering too. I just need to kind of get space for everything too. I'm kind of limited with space right now, but um, yeah.
Fair enough. Cool. Uh, so I think we've covered all the answers that, or all the questions that I had lined up. I'd like to give a little opportunity for the community, uh, the listeners listening in, if they had any questions, or if Dan here maybe said something that prompted a thought. Come on up, chum. How's it going?
Good, man. Good. Hey, hopefully y'all can hear me okay. I'm coming in on cell phone.
Yeah, you sound great.
Yep, loud and clear.
Sweet. Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for the submissions. We had a lot of fun putting the contest together, and yeah, I think it's awesome how many people wound up putting in submissions, and yeah, just good job, everybody. I think in reference to the Fun Uncles, I think we're talking about doing another episode this Saturday, I think 9 a.m. Western time. And we're also talking about putting another contest together that's going to kind of revolve around the relayer and seeing who can get some relayers set up and get some data submitted to the network. So if you haven't already, go check out some of the docs that Henry's put together and, plan out some hardware and, maybe kind of get your head wrapped around that, because there's probably going to be some more SPF on the line for that one. So just a little heads up.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for calling in. And
Yep.
big thank you as well for contributing greatly to the SCPRig competition. I know that was a big hit. And yeah, I look forward to Saturday. So that's 9 a.m. Western, so probably noon Eastern. And I think that's like 4 p.m. UTC, given the current daylight savings. It's a little confusing, but I think that works out.
Yeah, I'll trust you on that one. I just go by Western time and hope everyone else figures it out. But yeah, and yeah, great little talk, Turtle Bomb. It was good to hear some of the background and everything. And in reference to the DIY setup, like what I did with my first provider was I didn't go Mac Mini, but I did get like one of the little B-Link NUCs. I think I picked it up for like $200, something like that. And then I got a DOS, which is just a mount for the hard drives pretty much. So like out the door, I think I spent less than 500 on everything with a 16 terabyte Seagate Exos hard drive. So it's not unreasonable to get one up and going, and the hardware specs for the actual computer are pretty low. So just a heads up.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right, I'll let someone else up here. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, chum. Okay, so we have had an update from the boss that the Explorer is likely to return in the next roughly 36 hours. So that was related to the migration that I announced earlier. So it is coming back. It's just, I guess, taking some time off for Easter weekend, some paid time off, and then it'll be back. So thank you for that. Cool. Well, if that's everything, I won't drag it out. I think we covered a lot in the 40 or so minutes that this call ran. It was lovely to hear from you, Dan. And thank you for your service as well on behalf of everyone listening.
Yeah, thank you, Henry. Thanks for having me on today. Also appreciate you uploading all these videos on YouTube too. I've been pretty busy, so I've always been able to catch the call on YouTube, which has been very helpful. And yeah, always thank you so much for being responsive as well whenever you had problems or anything. And yeah, thanks for doing all you do, keeping the community updated.
Of course. Thanks, Dan. I'll see you around. And I would just like to thank all the listeners for coming to this week's show. We should return in 2 weeks for the next storage provider meet. I hope you all have had a chance to listen to the 2 Popper Bravo event. I think that was a really strong event. A lot of reward there for being live and listening in. But if you didn't catch it, or if you wanted to listen to something again, of course, that is on YouTube. We do try to reach as many ears as possible and make it accessible, so you can always catch it there. Anyway, thanks for coming, everyone, and I'll see you on Saturday for the 2 Fun Uncles, and then back here in 2 weeks' time for the next storage provider call. Take care.